My friends, if you remember one thing from the speech, remember this. Our enemies are your enemies. Our fight is your fight, and our victory will be your victory.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, the world heard a speech that will live on forever from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Who will ever forget the words of Bibi in front of the American Congress saying, "This is not a clash of civilizations. This is a clash between civilization and barbarism." Who will ever forget the words of Benjamin Netanyahu when he said, "Your enemy, our enemy is your enemy. Our fight is your fight. Our victory is your victory." This week's Torah portion is the story of Pinchas. Pinchas was a zealot. Now, zealotry could be good or bad. On the one hand, zealotry is about passion and enthusiasm and a sense of urgency and importance, a sense of excitement and dedication. On the other hand, zealotry could be defined as extremism, as radicalism, as unflexible. And this week's Torah portion shows us the two sides of zealotry, how zealotry is vital and critical in leadership, but how it is also fundamentally channeled into a positive direction. You see, in this week's Torah portion, the Jewish people are fornicating with the Moabite women. They're committing adultery and idolatry. And it reaches a climax when a leader of the tribe of Shimon, Zimri, takes a Midianite woman in front of Moses and publicly starts to fornicate and says, "Moses, you took a Midianite woman. Why can't I?" And the entire Jewish camp is weeping. They are on the verge of losing their entire spiritual bearings. And at that point, Pinchas stands up, takes a spear, and as Zimri and Cosby are engaged in this adulterous relationship, he takes a spear and drives it through them, a radical, violent act. And the Jewish people are waiting for the verdict. And God says, "Pinchas ben Elazar, Pinchas the son of Elazar, the grandson of Aaron a Kohen, he removed my wrath from the Jewish people. He stemmed the tide of adultery and idolatry, and therefore he will be given a tremendous award." And what is that award? That would be Briti Shalom, my covenant of peace. And he and his descendants will always be Kohanim. And what God is saying is that Pinchas had zealotry, zeal, passion, vigor, eagerness to go and do the right thing, to stop the violence and the horrible, horrific, idolatrous and forbidden relationships that the Jewish men were having with the Moabite women. And you may say he's a radical, he's an extremist. But the truth is, no, he's a man of peace. And he will be a Kohen, and all his descendants will be Kohanim until today. Why? Because God was saying is, sometimes zealotry is necessary. Sometimes violence is required. Sometimes extremism is important, because ultimately Pinchas will be a Kohen. He will be a man who will bestow blessings. He will not stretch out his hand with a spear and a dagger. He will stretch out his hands like all the Kohanim do till today to give blessings to the Jewish people, the priestly blessings. He is a man of service, of dedication, of blessings, of peace. And that's what he will do. And he is descendants for all of humanity. Yes, he had to step out of line for a moment and do something which is extreme and violent. But his real zeal, his real dedication, his real vigor and passion is to be a source of blessing. Briti Shalom, a covenant of peace, a man of peace, a man of blessing, a man of service to the Jewish people, a Kohen, which means to serve. And how relevant this message is today. You see, the world tries to label us, especially since October 7th, and especially the IDF and Benjamin Netanyahu, as being extremists, violent people who are fanatical, who are radical. But we know who we are. We are people of peace. We are people of blessing. We are people of service. That is our zeal and our passion, to be a light unto the nations. But at times when enemies come against us, barbaric enemies, as Benjamin Netanyahu said, not civilized human beings, animals, and they act abhorrently, we have no choice but to be the modern day Pinchases and to take a spear and fight against evil and darkness and barbarism, which is a threat, as Benjamin Netanyahu said, not just to Israel, but to all of humanity. We are fighting the fight for all of humanity. And the tremendous applause and standing ovations that Benjamin Netanyahu got in Congress over and over and over again, thunderous applause, was a validation and a support for this belief. And the world was saying, America was saying, as we disagree with the UN, we disagree with the Hague, we disagree with the anti-Semites in the street who are protesting Israel, we are applauding you and standing for you because we know the truth. You are fighting for light and for goodness and for peace and for blessings for all of humanity. And basically, Benjamin Netanyahu's speech was not just a validation for the truth of Israel's fight since October 7th, but for our 4,000-year history, for our story that goes back to our ancestral land, as Netanyahu said, from the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, from Jeremiah, from all the great prophets, from King David, from King Solomon. It was a validation of three powerful words: Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people will live on. And the American Congress applauded those three words over and over and over again. Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people will live on forever. Yesterday, sadly and tragically, the IDF soldiers discovered 5 bodies of hostages who were taken on October 7th, discovered them in Gaza and brought them home for a proper Jewish burial. And one of those 5 hostages was a woman by the name of Maya Gorin. She was a kindergarten teacher, and she got up early on October 7th to go set up her classroom for the next day. And that's where the terrorists found her, took her into Gaza and killed her. And she was the kindergarten teacher of Kfir Bibas, the little baby that was abducted. And there's a picture of her holding Kfir Bibas in her kindergarten room, giving him a bottle. That's the face of our hostages: compassionate, loving, humanitarians, kind people, people who are a source of blessing for children, for humanity. That's the face of the Jewish people. And then in a very moving video, you see the way the commanders and the soldiers of the IDF come and discover in the room the 5 bodies of the hostages. And when they discover them, they begin to study Torah and then recite the mourner's Kaddish. And you see the soldiers point to east, and they all stand at attention and loudly, with love and compassion, standing over these 5 bodies, they say Yitkadal v'Yitkadash Shmei Rabba, and all the soldiers say Amen. And you hear the entire Kaddish recited in that dark, hellish room in Gaza. That's the face of the IDF soldiers, in love, in prayer, in peace, in a yearning for a world where Yitkadal v'Yitkadash Shmei Rabba, that God's name will be sanctified and glorified in this world. No, we are not radicals, we are not extremists. But like Pinchas, we want to restore the peace, the blessing, the morality, and the goodness and the righteousness of mankind. And in order to do that, we know that like Pinchas, we have to sometimes be extreme and violent. As the Congress applauded over and over again, the Jewish people are righteous, and all of the righteous people of the world, represented by the Congress of the United States, stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish people and understand our true mission and purpose that we are aiming to achieve each and every day. Have a wonderful day.